Hey guys. So this is going to be part 2 of the Leon County stuff. So Wade's basically his criminal past from Leon County, but this isn't Wade's complete criminal record because he has stuff from other counties too that he got in trouble. So yeah, this is just from Leon County. So it's just a condensed version of my live I did last week. I'm doing it in 3 parts. So this is part 2. Okay, so it's going to start with 2 statements. One's a witness to something Wade did, and then one's the victim. This is while he was in jail. This is from February 2nd, 2016. So his first witness is Sheldrick Williams. He says, I was under my cover. When I come from under the cover, Jackson was bleeding from the head. Wilson grabbed him by the neck first. Okay. And then we have, so this is the victim, Cedric Jackson. He says, let's see what he says happened now. He says, I was playing cards with another inmate when Wade then started saying I took an empty bag of coffee, which I then said I never touched nothing on or near his bed. And we exchanged words. He put on his shoes as I was playing cards as he came up behind me and choked me out, I guess. I blanked out and hit my head on the bed rail. So here's some mugshots of good old Cedric here. He continued his life in and out of jail since 2016. A lot do. It's hard to get out of the system, I feel like, for a lot of people. Okay, so now this is the charge we got: battery, simple, hands, fists, feet, or no weapon. So Cedric Jackson's the victim. Wade is the suspect. He was 21 when this happened. See what it says. Yeah. And I think what I was explaining on the first recording, I think this is a typo. This should be February because it was February 1st, I think it happened. And then by the time they got through and it was reported, it was February 2nd. And the reason I think it, because I know it could take like, oh, maybe they reported it a month late. But the reason I don't think that is here. We have a picture of Cedric. I'll show you of the victim so you can get a visual. Okay. So that's him. Wade was sharing a bed with him. I mean, bunk bed. Here's his injury. And yeah, he definitely needs some stitches. Pretty good gash there. Right here, look at that. Pretty big gash. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, this is obviously just happens. And he has date February 1st. A lot of typos in court docs, I've noticed. All right, so let's go back to the document. I actually want to see, let's see something here. Compare it to, hold on. So let me go up real quick and see how tall this guy is. Because remember, Wade is what, 6'2"? He 200, well, dang it, I've never seen somebody's height change so much. So he, it varies between 6 foot and 6'3". This one he is listed at 6 foot here, but he is only 21, so maybe he did grow a couple inches. Some people have like late growth spurts. I mean, you never know. Maybe not, but this is 6 foot, 205 pounds. Let's see how big Cedric is. He is 5'10", 170 pounds, 29 years old. So yeah, Wade's a little taller than him, bigger than him. So Wade, why don't you pick on somebody your own size? Okay, so let's read here. Like I said, I think that's a typo. That should be February. It says on January 1st, 2016, at approximately 23:35 hours, which would be 11:35 p.m., inmate Cedric Jackson approached my desk bleeding from the left side of his head. I asked what happened, and he stated that he hit his head on the bunk. I then asked him if he had been working out in the section, and he hesitantly stated, no, I just hit my head on the side of the bunk. I had then advised inmate Jackson that he needed to be seen by medical, but he refused. After speaking with inmate Jackson, he immediately walked away from my desk towards his bunk. I walked towards section 8 to assess the scene and noticed inmate Jackson standing up at his bunk talking to inmate Wilson, who was sitting on his bunk reading a book. At this time, I called inmate Wilson to my desk to ask him what happened with inmate Jackson, being he seemed to only be communicating with him. Inmate Wilson told me nothing had happened, and that inmate Jackson came back into the section and began to vent to him. At approximately 11:55 p.m., I spoke with Sergeant Williams and advised her that I needed to talk to her whenever she comes into the pod with chemicals. At approximately 12 a.m., I spoke with inmate Jackson on the exercise deck to provide separation of inmate Jackson and all other inmates in his section. I again asked inmate Jackson what happened to him, and he again hesitantly said, "Nothing, Officer Roll. I am not trying to get you in trouble." I proceeded on to advise inmate Jackson that this has nothing to do with me being in trouble and needed to know what happened. At approximately 12:05 a.m., I called inmate Wilson out to the exercise deck and asked him what happened. Inmate Wilson stated, "Ma'am, I was just on my bed and he came to the area and started talking to me." I then asked inmate Wilson what inmate Jackson was discussing in the section, and he stated, "I don't know. He kept saying he doesn't care and that he is tired." I then asked him if he witnessed anything, and he stated, "No, I was in bed at that time." At approximately 12:10 a.m., I called both inmate Jackson and inmate Wilson to the exercise deck and told them that they needed to advise me of what happened. Inmate Jackson shook his head and said that he does not have an issue, and inmate Wilson stated, "It's whatever." At approximately 1:30 a.m., Sergeant Trona Williams entered the pod and spoke with both inmates. Inmate Jackson then stated that he wanted to go to medical about his injury. At approximately 1:35 a.m., I advised Charge Nurse Diana Robinson of inmate Jackson's injury, and she advised that he needed to be seen. At approximately 1:38 a.m., Officer Thomas escorted inmate Jackson to medical. While in medical, inmate Jackson informed Nurse Robinson that he had been choked from behind by inmate Wilson and hit his head once he fell to the floor from passing out. Nurse Robinson advised Sergeant Williams of this information. At approximately 2:40 a.m., inmate Wilson was escorted to medical by Officer Thomas for a pre-confinement screening and reclassified to Pod H, pending the outcome of his disciplinary report hearing. Inmate Jackson received a Notice of Victim Rights and Remedies pamphlet and does not want to pursue filing charges against inmate Wilson. Inmate Sheldrick Williams was a witness to this incident and completed a sworn affidavit stating he witnessed inmate Wilson choke inmate Jackson. Attachments, affidavit for prosecution, notice of legal rights, other document, describe in narrative. So that's that. So the next one is from July 12th, 2017, resistant officer without violence to his person. Victims is Chardon Stafford. Suspect is Wade Wilson. He was 23 at the time. He is listed at 6 foot, 205 pounds. What else? Nothing else is really filled in besides hair color brown, eye color brown. On July 12th, 2017, at approximately 17:48 hours, which would be 5:48 p.m., while assigned to Pod L, inmate Wilson was told that he would not receive his food tray until his roommate shut the door to their assigned cell. Wilson became very disrespectful by replying, "Man, that's not my problem. What does the next man have to do with me?" I ordered Wilson to step out of the feed line until his room door was shut. Wilson walked off and said, "F that shit." I told Wilson to pack his belongings after he finished his evening meal because he would be receiving a DR for disrespect. At approximately 6:01 p.m., Wilson came back to my officer's desk to apologize for his actions. I told him his apology was accepted and that he would still need to gather his belongings to exit the pod. Wilson became angry at that moment and replied, "I'm not going anywhere until you call the sergeant." I ordered Wilson to lock down and he did not comply. I came out from behind this officer station and gave Wilson a second verbal order to lock down or I would spray him. Wilson did not comply to my last verbal command, resulting in me removing my spray from my holster and administering a 2-second burst of spray to Wilson's facial area. Wilson immediately spun away from me and attempted to wipe the spray from his eyes. I gave Wilson a verbal command to lock down and he complied and went directly to his assigned room. I immediately ordered the rest of my pod to lock down and press my man down device. I also informed Sergeant Kellen Mack via radio at approximately 6:03 p.m. hours that I have an inmate that has been sprayed and he needs to be decontaminated. At approximately 6:07 p.m., Lieutenant Diane Sheffield, Sergeant Monica, Sergeant Daniel, Officer Jonathan, Officer Edward, Seth Gibbs, Cynthia Jones entered the pod and assisted securing the area. So how many people do they need for that? So they needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people to secure it. At approximately 6:08 p.m., Sergeant Murphy handcuffed Wilson and double locked them behind Wilson's back. Sergeant Whaley and Gaffney escorted Wilson to medical for decontamination. Wilson was given a shower and received a clean set of issued jail blue uniform. At approximately 6:10 p.m., Wilson was evaluated by charge nurse Ambrose O'Hyde. At approximately 6:20 p.m., Wilson was escorted to Pod F, room 11, and placed on DC confinement pending the disposition of this report. Wilson received a DR for the charges of 916 disorderly conduct. Attachments response to resistance report. So next we have Wade when he's 24 years old. Okay, on September 5th, 2018, at approximately 18:26 hours, which would be 6:26 p.m., I responded to the area of Municipal Way to assist TPD with a foot pursuit. Officer Tibria Howard was engaged in a foot pursuit with a white male who was wearing a white t-shirt and camouflage shorts. I observed a white male who matched the exact description running northeast through the city of Tallahassee gas pumps. I pulled into the parking lot and exited my patrol vehicle, which had its emergency lights engaged. I gave chase to the subject and gave him verbal commands to stop running. The subject continued to run and began to scale a chain link fence approximately 15 feet in height, which had barbed wire across the top. The fence enclosed the city of Tallahassee fleet work area. He climbed over the fence, fell to the ground, and continued to run northeast through the parking lot. It should be noted the fence is marked with no trespassing signs at various points. I then helped TPD officers maintain a perimeter. Once access was gained to the fenced area, I helped search for the suspect. The suspect, later identified as Wade Wilson, was located hiding inside of City of Tallahassee work truck. Officers took Wilson into custody and charged him accordingly. So that was resisting officer without violence to his person. Okay, so now we have a resisting officer without violence to his person. It's the same day because it's after he gets basically picked up here where I just read, and then something that happens while he is in custody. So 24 years old, Wade, and it's September 6, 2018, 12:02 hours, which is noon. While assigned to mail booking, myself and Officer Please heard a disturbance in cell 104. Officer Please responded and found inmate Wilson in cell 104 being very animated about the time he had spent in booking. Officer Please told inmate Wilson to just have a seat. We would be taking him up shortly. Inmate Wilson didn't like the answer he was given, so he claimed he needed medical attention. Officer Please asked the nurse to stop what she was doing to check inmate Wilson. After seeing Nurse Tanya Taylor, she let him know there was no emergency and that he would go to medical when he left booking. Inmate Wilson, still quite animated, was observed by Sergeant Dent, where she reiterated the same thing that Officer Please and Nurse Taylor told him, and added that she had just signed off on his folder so it would not be long. At this time, it was decided I would take him and 4 others up by medical and then classification. While in medical, awaiting the charge nurse Willingham, Wilson and another inmate started talking about having to wait and being classified for confinement. I pointed to the signs in the medical and let them know there's no talking in medical. These 2 inmates continued to talk, so I placed both in medical holding cell until they could be seen by the charge nurse. At approximately 12:23 hours after the 4 other inmates were seen by the charge nurse, I brought inmate Wilson out. Nurse Willingham and Nurse Frank White, after being well advised, took their time in their assessment and covering all bases before clearing inmate Wilson for confinement. Inmate Wilson didn't like that and demanded to be seen by Nurse Christmas, Nurse Michelle Shop, which I don't know how she got the name Nurse Christmas. It must be a nickname. And I was talking about that on the live. Like, what is she like? Maybe gives all the inmates gifts or something, or I don't know. Because her name's Nurse Michelle Shaw, right? And I guess she goes by Nurse Christmas? So just trying to figure out like how somebody could get that nickname. It's a good one. I'm sure she's a good nurse. It must be a positive thing, I'm guessing, because Christmas is a positive thing, right? Anyway, I'm silly. I'm probably reading too much into it. Wilson started talking down the hall in a medical in a compliant manner. Wilson started walking down the hall in medical in a compliant manner when he saw Nurse Christmas and suddenly changed direction as if to get to her. I immediately stepped in his path and told him to stop and walk back the other way. Wilson would not comply, so I grabbed inmate Wilson by the shirt and attempted to escort him down the hall. When he made a second attempt to turn back, I stopped him in front of the hall door that leads to the waiting room in medical and put handcuffs on him with the assistance of Officer Kendrick Ross. At this time, Officer Please walked in medical with another inmate needing medical clearance. We then exchanged inmates in an attempt to get Wilson to calm down. Officer Please and Officer Ross escorted Wilson to classification, where he said, I beat him up. Oh my God. Sergeant Kevin White was notified. Pictures were taken. Inmate Wilson was then escorted back to medical and assessment by Nurse Willingham, then escort to Pod E, room 7, without further incident. Okay, so now we have this burglary or home invasion. So this, I still don't know what this is. This like, oh, it's a report written. I don't know. It sounds like it's almost like the radio maybe of them talking. It's just like kind of statement. I'm going to read some of it here. So it says, this is at 10, so October 2nd, 2018. So it was about a year before the murders. Just wanted to point that out to kind of put it on a timeline. So this is Wade. He says, male running in the complainant's house stating that someone is trying to kill him. Male appears to be on drugs. Blood all over the fence. Male jumped the fence and ran into the house. Maroon shorts, no shirt, black short hair. Dogs inside with male. Complainant outside. Subject Steve Austin. Male talking to complainant. And there's something redacted. It says no weapons. Subject standing on the porch with complainant and complainant's friend. AAVXT Blountstown. Subject is speaking succinctly and will tell Leo what occurred when Leo arrives. Okay, and then we have subject does not know the people who are trying to kill him. So I'm skipping around because some of it's just repeats, so I'm kind of going by the time. So male stated the people are coming from 2 streets over. Subject does not know the people who are trying to kill him. It says rec EMS, so probably required EMS because he was bleeding, remember? Subject is detained. So at 8:57 a.m., he's detained. Austin is negative in CGIS. No one with a close date of birth. Wilson Wade, 5/20/94. Wilson Wade, negative for local warrants, but extensive history in possession of firearm by convicted felon. Wilson also Florida history with no warrants, which is surprising. On TTY. And then it says EMS transporting. S254 following. That's at 9:23 a.m. And then we have the incident report. So he was 24 at the time. October 2nd, 2018 at 8:52 a.m. I was dispatched to Mage Lane in reference to a suspicious incident. Blank advised an unknown white male jumped her fence and ran into her screen porch. The male stated someone was trying to kill him. Upon arriving on the scene, the subject identified as Wade Wilson. Mr. Wilson was highly excitable and sweating profusely. He advised he was at a residence nearby where several subjects made him feel threatened. He said these people never spoke to him, but they were acting like they were going to harm him. His story changed several times, and he never could describe how they threatened him. While interviewing Mr. Wilson, he appeared extremely jumpy. He continued looking out to the roadway and stated several times they're coming. Deputy Littlefield made contact with the residents at Tidwell Hills Lane, where Mr. Wilson was staying. The resident there, Harley Radabaugh, advised Mr. Wilson woke up abruptly, stating they're out there, which at the time only her mother and small children were in the residence. He then jumped up and ran out of the residence. Miss Radabaugh indicated that he was under the influence of an unknown substance, but she did not know what he took. Due to Mr. Wilson's paranoid, delusional behavior, it was evident that he was unable to make rational decisions. Based on his actions, it appeared he posed a significant risk to himself or others. He was taken into custody under a Marchman Act and transported to TMH by ambulance. Upon arriving at the hospital, Mr. Wilson was highly agitated and had to be restrained. He was also sedated. Blank advised she did not wish to pursue criminal charges in this case. And then it says attachments Baker and Marchman Act. So if you look up the Marchman Act, it's the Marchman Act is a Florida law that allows for the assessment, stabilization, and treatment of substance abuse. It can be used for both voluntary and involuntary treatment. How does the Marchman Act work? A petition can be filed in the county court where the person lives. The petition must be filed in good faith by someone who has reason to believe that the person has lost control of their substance use. The court can order an initial assessment period of up to 5 days. After the assessment, the court can order treatment for up to 60 days with the possibility of extension to 90 days. Who can file a petition? A spouse or legal guardian, a relative, a licensed service provider, an adult with direct personal knowledge of the substance abuse, a parent or legal guardian if the person is a minor. And who does it apply to? Adults and youth who are severely impaired due to the substance abuse. It says, why is the Marchman Act named after Hal S. Marchman? The act was named after Reverend Hal S. Marchman, an advocate for people with alcoholism and drug abuse. So there you go. All right, guys. So that is everything combined and condensed. I'm gonna do kind of like a branch off with the Brian Winchester and Denise Williams case. Go through that kind of deep dive style, and then I want to go through that 2014 case of Wade still too. And I do still have a few more things being ordered because I'm constantly kind of ordering things here and there as they come up as I think of them. So the Wade stuff is like consistently kind of coming in. So I don't know. I know a lot of people are tired of it, but some people aren't. I could tell by the views it is getting less traffic, but I did want to order the few last things that I ordered at least. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. Have a good night, everybody.
I'll say